Hey authors, welcome back to Writer's Workshop. And you know what? You're authors and now you're learning how to be poets, which is a special type of writing. So yesterday we read different types of poems and we learned that songs actually are poems that have been sung to a rhythm and tune. And even though they were all poems, many of you noticed that some of the poems looked different. We talked about the way they were different. Some were long, some were short, some had rhymes, some didn't. No poem was really the same. So, what makes poetry really so special is that authors can use so many different craft moves in their writing. And we will explore some of those craft moves in this unit. Like I said, some poems are short, some poems are long, some have rhymes, some don't. Some poems are sung and turned into songs, and others are just meant to be read. So that got me thinking, what makes a poem if they all can be so different? What do you guys think? Do you remember? That's right! And we'll get to that. So today we'll learn what all poems have in common as we continue to explore and listen to different poems and songs. And we will also continue to generate a list of topics that we can write poems about throughout this unit. So writers, some of you may think that in order to be a poem, it has to rhyme. Well, guess what? I'm going to tell you a secret. Nope, not all poems rhyme. I want you to say that. Not all poems rhyme. That's right, not all poems have rhyme. A lot of them do have rhymes in them, and those are words with the same ending sound, like cat, bat. They both say at. But guess what? Not all poems have to have rhymes. So what do poets need to do in order to write a poem? What do all poems have in common? I see some of you. Yup. A poem is a writing that activates a reader's imagination and their feelings, their emotions. Poetry is a special type of writing that allows the reader to experience the topic in their imagination and in their feelings in their heart. So today, we're going to read and listen to some of these poems and songs, observing what we notice about them, and share what we imagine in our minds and our feelings as we listen. Because remember, we can listen and look at different poems and songs, different types of writing, and get ideas for our own poems and writing. So questions you might ask yourself as you listen to these poems and songs is you might think, what am I imagining in my mind as I hear this poem being read to me? What type of movie are you making in your mind? How did the author's words help us imagine what they're talking about? And how did you feel as we read this poem? So the first poem I'm going to read for you is called My Puppy Makes Pizza by Ken Nesbitt. My puppy makes pizza, he bakes every day. In chef hat and apron, he's quite the gourmet. He'll roll out some dough and he'll give it a toss, then spread on a generous topping of sauce. He'll heap it with cheeses and mountains of meat, but still, it's not something you'd probably eat. For though he makes pizza with obvious flair, it all ends up covered with slobber and hair. Ooh! So what were you imagining in your mind? What movie were you making in your mind as I read that poem? I tell you what, I was imagining this dog all dressed up in his silly chef hat and apron, rolling out dough, tossing it up in the air. And when he goes to put the toppings on, it's just tons and tons of toppings because the way Ken Nesbitt used the word heap, he heaped the cheeses and meats all on top of it. That tells me he used a lot when he says that word heap. And then I laughed. It made me feel really silly and funny because at the end, I was clearly imagining the pizza covered in dog drool and slobber and fur, right? All the hair coming off. Because the author, the poet, Ken Nesbitt, really used those describing words to activate my imagination. Now I want to read another one for you. This one is a song, because remember, a song, all those songs that you hear on the radio, the raps, the country music, any of that, guess what? Those are poems performed to a rhythm and a tune. So this one is called Orange Octopus from the DLTK website. It's called Orange Octopus. Oh, I wish I was an orange octopus. Oh, I wish I was an orange octopus. Oh, I'd wave my lovely legs and I'd splash in all the waves. Oh, I wish I was an orange octopus. So, in that one, I was imagining that all of a sudden I had 8 legs and I was bright orange. And I could even hear the sound of the splashing as the legs were waving all around in the waves, right? Because the poet used those describing words. They described exactly the color, how many legs, all those orange bright legs splashing in the waves. So that poet also used words to activate our imagination and our emotions. So, authors, today, we learned that poets use different craft moves in each poem, but we learned that something all poets do, whether it's short, long, whether it's turned into a song, all of these poets activate the reader's emotions and imagination by using specific words to describe the situation. So maybe you can have a conversation with your grown-up at home, maybe someone in the classroom, about different adjectives or different describing words and try to make a movie in your mind and use those words to make a movie in your reader's mind. So yesterday, you created a list of topics that you can write poems about. And some of you were ready and you began writing your first poem already. If you didn't start writing a poem yet, don't worry. Today is your day to get started. So today, during Writer's Workshop, we will all be working on our own poems, a poem of our choice. And remember to talk about the topic step by step and really help your reader imagine what they're talking about. Set them up for success to make a movie in their mind as they read your words. All right, writers, I can't wait to read your poems and hear your songs. It's your turn. Writers, go write.